So, we, at Matt's request, when I say we, me and Deanna, our team Root 3, we have been tasked with the job of calculating the level of precision we need for the square root of 3, which clearly for Newton wasn't available by calculator either. So while these guys are working on the sort of series expansion of the clever derivation of pi, we need to get that root 3 term, which is part of that derivation, and we need that to however many decimal places that they ask it for. There are various methods that we are playing with, one of which we think was probably available to Newton. We don't know whether the algorithm we've ended up using was available to him, but I'll explain the algorithm and then you can go and figure out whether you think it works. So there's one method which you could do by binomial expansion, which is very similar to method to what the other guys are doing on the big picture. And you can work out root 3 individually by binomial expansion, but we kind of suspect that it's going to be a lot slower than the other method we eventually used. So we've gone with an algorithm which I can point to on paper, which feels a bit arcane, but it's a good exercise to think about why it does find a square root. It's a little bit like long division for square roots. So we have the number we're trying to square root, which is a 3 here, and we write out a bunch of decimal places beyond it, a little bit like long division would be, which these guys are doing lots of, but they go in pairs, so pairs of digits. And that feels really mysterious until you realise that when you square single digits, this is all about squaring and square rooting. When you square single digits, you get at most a 2-digit number. So the process of squaring and square rooting changes between 1 digit and 2 digits, and that's kind of why these things go in pairs. You can go and check whether you believe that in your own time. So you find a number that fits into the first digit. We have a 3 here. We need to find a number that squares into 3 and doesn't go over it. So if you try and square 2, you get 4. That's too big. So all we're left with is 1 squared is 1. So we write down 1 as our first digit, and that's the beginning of square root of 3. We can check what we've got left over. So if you square 1, you get 1. You take that away from 3, and you get a 2, which I've written down here. And that's kind of like our remainder, which you might be used to from a long division algorithm. And then we bring down a double 0, in this case, because we've got a bunch of zeros to go. Whatever these digits were, we'd bring 2 of them down, and we've got a 200 left to work with now. And this is the slightly weird bit. Is this fair,
Yeah.
Deanna? This is the bit that feels a bit strange. You go and grab the digit you just wrote down as part of your answer, which in our case is 1. You double it, and you write it down here, and you put another digit after it. So I wrote down a 2, and then leave a space for another digit. And I need to figure out what digit will fill in that space, and also get multiplied by the 2-digit number I've just made, to create a number which fits into my remainder. If this is sounding awkward to you, it sounds awkward to me too. In this case, though, by way of example, I've got 2 and a gap times a gap to give me something less than 200. It turns out 7 fits. 27 times 7 is 189, which is less than 200. I couldn't go any higher because 28 times 8 is too big. Once I realised that, 7 is the next digit in my answer, so I write 7 at the top. Calculate the difference between the 189 and the 200 that I've got, and then start the process again. So all the time we're sort of bringing down the next 2 digits, which is a little bit like the long division where they do 1 digit at a time. You find out the digit that goes in, and you repeat, and you end up homing in. You end up homing in on the square root of 3 in this case, after some large calculations. Unfortunately, after a page or so, you end up with digits, with many digits following them. We are currently working with numbers approximately 12 quintillion and higher, which I feel, I don't know, some respect for Isaac Newton for pushing through this far, if he did. We don't know exactly how he calculated the square root of 3 when he did it.